Hello and welcome to our special coverage of the opening ceremony of the 2014 ITU Plenipotentiary Conference. The ceremony will begin in about 5 minutes' time in Korea's southeastern port city of Busan. And to help us guide through today's ceremony, we have two special guests joining us live in the studio. On my left is Professor Hyoung-Kee from Seongkyungan University. Thank you very much for being here, Professor.
My pleasure.
And to my right, of course, is our very own reporter, Hwang Ji-hye. Thanks, Ji-hye, for as always.
Good morning.
All right, and there's one more person who joins us, not here. All right, that's a very precise and a lengthy report, but very precise for our viewers to understand. Now, how does it actually contribute to promoting, our Ji-hye did mention that it works to promote and, cooperation and collaboration among states and member countries as well. So how does it actually contribute to doing that? Is it effective, this conference?
Yes, it is. The people over 190 the personnel is coming and they're sitting together and discuss about the future directions of ICT and worries about the global issues. And these people have been preparing for the issues and they're looking for solution for the issues and future direction. So being sit together is very effective, and then they're looking ahead and what's going to be a problem that's going happening, and they discuss with the deep ideas, so there will be coming out with really great result for the global the nations.
Right, and then this conference has been going on taking place for decades and decades. So do you have any examples perhaps for our viewers to understand what discussions are being made throughout the event and how is that actually implemented in our daily lives?
Right. After 3 weeks conference, there's more than 70 resolutions will be coming out of it. And this resolution will be delivered to 3 different sectors in ITU. It's called ITU-T, ITU-R, and ITU-D. And these 3 sectors will be delivered and will be more specific technology for future 4 years. For example, this video coming from the Busan, we have just saw, actually is digitally compressed, and it has been standardized. And this standard has been reserved by ITU-T a few years ago. So this ITU is contribute to nations by making standardizations and recommendations and so on.
And you yourself, Professor, is of course an ICT expert. And do you see this event and evaluate this event as very effective tool in really promoting collaboration?
Yes, it is. Of course, although it happens 4 years, between the 4 years, as a researcher myself, we're preparing for, I can propose actually the specification and standard for the community and this ICT development. So during the 4 years, as a researcher, we're working really hard to make things come true in the future.
All right, so it's a really meaningful step
Yes,
not only
is,
for the
course.
officials, but for how this is going to affect our lives is also something that we need to take a look at as well.
Exactly.
And and then one of the things you did say, as our GA also said, was child protection on using the internet.
That the GA just mentioned is about online child protection. It's more like not just protecting children from the content of the internet. Is more or less like related to protecting, making our environment safer to the children.
Just 1 second, please. I think our science minister is about to make an address, so let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
All right, so the ITU Secretary General is making an address right now, but we have a few minutes before we hear from the UN Secretary General for his congratulatory message. So he did emphasize, Hamadan Toure, he did emphasize the growth of the use of mobile broadband and the importance of that as well.
That's right. Dr. Truss, from the Dr. Truss speech, he mentions about the global increase about mobile, the broadband access. We're expecting more than half of the global populations will have internet access by the 2017 with the mobile broadband instead of a fixed the broadband. And from that figure, like 32% of people in developing countries able to access internet, while there's more than 78% the developed country is able to access. So there's a big gap between developing and developed country. So it is called a digital divide. So from this ITU conference, this plenipotentiary, the person will think about it, how to bridge between this gap through the ITU, the broadband. So there will be distribute technology to the developing country so that they will be developing and they can actually increase their technology to up to date so that the people in the developing countries are able to access to the internet as we did it today.
Right. And let's pick up from where we left off before we heard all the speeches. So you were saying about the child protection issue. So what's the importance of that?
So online child protection is more like making safer environment to the children. Okay, they are actually there's no the blockage, there's anything prevent from they able to access the internet, so that they will create their own space called the cyberspace in their space, and they are working and they're living in the world, so that there's called the bullying, as with the bullying in the real world, there's cyberbullying. Okay, so this ITU will come up with these ideas and plan and ideas to actually prevent for child online protections abusing and make our environment more safer to the children.
Right, and that seems to be really necessary, especially because the younger generation, they are growing up in an era where it's really different from us. They know how to use the smartphone and navigate the smartphone with a slide of a fingertip, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we have a couple of minutes, and I believe they are still talking about the officials are making the speech, so we have a little bit more time to talk about. And Science Minister Hyoung-Kee, he did also mention the importance of converging the ICT industry with our everyday lives. So what's the importance, that significance behind
from
that?
his perspective, he emphasized two important things. The first thing is ICT convergence. And the second thing is new technology is called IoT or IoE. Yes, IoT stands for Internet of Things.
I guess those two are one of the key agendas of the creative economy drive of Korea.
Right, Internet of everything as well.
That's right. Okay. That's what he mentioned. The first ICT convergence is related to the creative economics, and it is kind of technology trend combine ICT with other areas of the educations, like for example education, healthcare, the business.
Right.
So the good examples of ICT convergence is like e-healthcare. So like there's handicapped or aged the person will have a sensor in the body, and the sensor will monitor this person's all the time, and if something happens, there's a communicator actually connected to the internet.
Right. For example, heart rate.
That's right. Report to the doctor, so that they can see the emergency cases and sending to the ambulance to bring the people to the hospital.
It's like a personal doctor, like attached to your body.
Exactly.
And wearable computing is one of the good example. Not only that, the ICT can actually go to medicine, go to like the business, go to the library to interpret more data at a faster speed. So it'll help a lot.
Right. So it's really the machines and the machines that are doing the work of things that the people used to do. And everything is just happening automatically now.
Right.
And even they are growing mushrooms, for example. I've come across an example where there is a farm in the Gangwon province where they have internet connected, and then they they evaluate and monitor how the amount of water being given to the plants. And
no need of farmers anymore.
Exactly. Well, maybe that's a sad thing. What are some of the downside risks that comes along with the boom of Internet of Things?
The downside is more like privacy issues. Like there's like sensor all around our daily life, and they're actually monitoring and censoring our daily life. And then without cautions of these monitoring issues, they can reveal our private issues into the internet, or maybe unauthorized personnel may be able to access our the data with the purpose or without purpose. In the case, the privacy issue is really the prime important things in this technology.
Right, and that will be one of the things on the discussion for the ITU conference.
That's right, they will cover it.
Okay, and now I am hearing that we are ready to take a look at UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's congratulatory message. So let's take a look. Now, that was President Park Geun-hye speaking at the 2014 ITU Plenipotentiary Conference. Now, then that will conclude the opening ceremony of the ITU conference. But before wrapping up our coverage, let's talk about a little bit about what she said. So she mentioned many things, including Internet of Things as well. But she did also mention setting up gigabit internet by the year 2017 and also establishing 5G mobile communication by the year 2020. So could you tell us a little bit more about that, Professor?
Okay, so the President Park mentions about the gigabit internet. This is about the speed, how fast you can access to internet. So gigabit mean is now these days we're connecting to internet is around 100 megabits per second at the most. And then if it comes to the word in the gigabit, we're just so super fast, and they will be the number one in the world in terms of the speed. So everybody's able to downloading the video with the speed, and it will be so we're communicating with internet. Internet becomes a communicating tool to share the information.
2017 is only 3 years away.
3 years away, and then 2020. She mentions about the fifth generation, so about the mobile communications. Now we're in the era of the fourth generations. LTE and LTA is fourth generations, and through this conference, they will design and they propose the specifics and design of the fifth generations, and we should be able to number one country to realize fifth generation's mobile technology.
So the environment, the mobile and internet environment really is changing at a very rapid pace, and Korea has come a long way.
Yes. President Park mentions about 30 years ago where there's 7% the people populations were able to communicate through the telephone. Now 30 years later, we're becoming the first country in terms of the internet technology. We should be, and we are able to being a leading role in terms of ICT technologies and the future demand, so that we become the good model to developing country. We can share our experience in technology in this area with the country, so that we can help them to developing as fast as we did it.
So this venue, the ITU conference, of course, will be a very good opportunity to do that.
That's right.
Right. And Jie, we left off we were about to talk about the economic impact of this conference, so give us the juicy details.
I mean, it's the government expects the numbers to stand at around 700 billion won. That's a big number. But as Professor just mentioned, I think since Korea is now have become a strong nation in terms of ICT infrastructure, it's now trying to leap to a leader in the ICT diplomacy, and that's what also Korea wants to achieve this time through the conference.
So what's more really important is how Korea is able to elevate the nation's status through these big international events.
Right.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much for both of you for coming to our studio and covering the live coverage of the opening ceremony. Professor Hyoung-Kee from Seongkyungan University and our very own reporter Hwang Ji-hye. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And that brings us to the end of our special coverage of the opening ceremony of the 2014 ITU Plenipotentiary Conference. Thank you for watching. This has been Na Hyun-kyung, and I will be back for our regular newscast at 2 p.m. Korea time.